Austin, just give us some of the anecdotal evidence that people are a bit worried about looking as though they've paid for a blue check mark.
You know, in recent days, we've seen a lot of these very high-profile users who were not paying Twitter and, in fact, had their blue check mark revoked by Elon 18 months ago, suddenly seeing that verification status appear in their profiles again. And you see a lot of them tweeting saying, number one, I did not pay for this. And number two, I want to turn it off. You see, there is an option within the settings menu. So you saw some like the high-profile producer of The Wire, David Simon. He was very much complaining, saying that he was not paying for this blue check mark, that he would never pay for it. He does not support Elon. And I think what this signals is that the blue check mark has gone from being a status of verification to being something a little bit more meaningless, if not devoid of value, maybe overly politicized. It means something more than just this is your true identity and you are someone of note. It's really had this sort of controversy embedded into that blue check mark since Elon took it over 18 months ago and promised to get rid of this, what he called a lords and peasants system of verification.
Yet, go back to, therefore, the change of heart for Elon Musk himself. What hasn't been working under the new system?
So when he took it over about a year and a half ago, he felt the process was corrupt. It was essentially given out to celebrities, politicians, other notable figures, brands, and he just felt the process was, nonsensical, as he described it. He felt it was unclear who could get it and who could not. So when he took over, he revoked it en masse for a lot of very famous people, which created a lot of chaos. And the system he replaced it with, it required you to pay for a premium subscription, at least $8, maybe $16 a month, and then you would go through a review process and get a blue check mark. The issue was all the people whose blue checks were removed did not sort of re-engage with the platform. They saw it as a sign of protest. They'd created so much content, so much engagement on the platform, and suddenly, someone like LeBron James, he was saying, wait, I have to pay for my own blue check mark now? And then on the reverse end, you saw a lot of people who supported Elon suddenly rushing to buy this blue check mark. And it almost became a symbol of whether you were supporting what Elon was doing with Twitter or perhaps his worldview, his politics, his approach to free speech. And so it became overly politicized. And now, again, I'm not quite sure what a blue check mark means if you have it in your profile. Does it mean you are who you say you are, or that you support Elon, or you just like paying for Twitter?
Let's just talk about Elon's commitment to free speech for a moment and the global aspect of it, Austin, because over in Brazil, it looks as though there has been a push by certain, judges over there to want to clamp down on the use of Twitter and X and certain voices to be heard on the platform. Now Elon Musk is saying he's lifting certain restrictions in Brazil, basically defying court orders over there. Can you give us sort of ultimately what's brought us to this moment?
Sure. He has defied a court order and essentially reactivated certain accounts that the court had ordered banned. It's still early in the details. We don't quite know what accounts have been reactivated. We don't know why they were ordered blocked. But a judge there has apparently opened an inquiry into the matter, and they're looking into it forward. But I think what it boils down to, before we know all the details of how this happened and what the nature of these accounts were, it really symbolizes Elon's so-called free speech sort of purism. He's sort of presented himself as this free speech advocate that will do anything to promote principles over profit, as he put it when he sort of said on X that he was going to reactivate these accounts for the good of the free speech. He would even leave Brazil, shut down their office, sacrifice their revenue if need be. And that is definitely the brand that Elon tries to project. But we've also seen many sort of hypocritical instances of this, especially in the U.S., where he's banned journalists, where he's essentially removed verification status once from the New York Times because he disagreed with some of the reporting. And then in other instances, there was a famous instance where Elon, when people were protesting and trying to get ad supporters to block their support of Twitter, he considered banning those users too, who were sort of trying to boycott the platform. And so we have this sort of tension point between Elon's values and X's business model, which has been really struggling to generate revenue since Elon acquired it. So you're seeing that play out in Brazil, and it's a good question about why he's sort of standing up for these particular accounts and whether or not he will actually commit to that at the expense of X's revenue down there.